Right, so this is the first of two videos for the section 6.1 through 6.2 quiz review. And what I'm doing is just the problems on page 427 in your textbook. In this first video, we're just going to review the problems that correlate with section 6.1. All right, so here are the first four questions. We're going to evaluate the expression without using the calculator. So in number one, we have 36 raised to the 3/2 power. So what I recommend doing is rewriting this by pulling the power out. So we have 36 raised to the 1/2 power, and then I'm going to pull the cube out. Okay. Then what I do is I convert the fractional exponent to a radical, so that just means the square root of 36 to the 3rd power, which equals 6 cubed, which is, I believe, 216. Okay. Number two, we have 64 raised to the negative 2/3 power. So in negative exponents, what you should do first is flip it. So we have 1 over 64 to the 2/3 power. And then we're going to do a similar process as we did with number one. So we have 1 over 64 to the 1/3 power squared. And this is going to become 1 over the cube root of 64 squared. And then the cube root of 64, what number times itself 3 times gives us 64, is going to be 4 squared, and then you have 1 over 16 as your answer. For number 3, we have negative the quantity 625 to the 3/4 power. So the negative is just going to come along for the ride. So we have the 4th root by the same argument of 625 cubed. So this would be negative. The 4th root of 625, I believe, is going to be 5 cubed. And that's how we get negative 125 as our answer. For number 4, we have negative 32 to the 2/5 power. So first step is negative 32 raised to the 1/5 power. And then that is going to be squared. So negative 32 to the 1/5 power is the same thing as saying the 5th root of negative 32 squared. And then what number times itself 5 times gives us negative 32? That's going to be negative 2. And then negative 2 squared, that's going to give us positive 4. All right. Now for the next 4 questions, we're going to solve the equation, and then we're going to round our answer to 2 decimal places where appropriate. So for the first question, we have x to the 4th equals 20. So what we do is we simply take the 4th root of both sides, because that is basically undoing the 4th power. Now we have a slight hiccup here. Whenever we take an even root, remember we have 2 roots. So we have plus or minus the 4th root of 20. Now at this point, there's not really a 4th root of 20, so we're going to use our calculator. So we have x equals plus or minus, and then I'm just going to pull my calculator out and do the 4th root of 20. All right, so let's pull this over here. Okay, so all we have to do there for the 4th root of 20 is have 20 raised to the 1/4 power. And remember, you need parentheses if you have the older version of the calculator. And we get about 2 decimal places, 2.11. So 2.11 is our answer. All right, for number 6, we have the 5th root of x to the 5th equals negative 10. So we're going to use the same argument as the previous problem. So we're going to take the 5th root of both sides. Right? Now 5th root, this is an odd root, so we don't need the plus or minus. So the answer is really just the 5th root of negative 10. And again, we need a calculator, so let's pull that up. So we have negative 10 in parentheses matter, raised to the 1/5 power, that's the 5th root, and to 2 decimal places we get negative 1.58. All right, for number 7, first step, we have to isolate x to the 6th term, so we subtract 5 from both sides. So we have x to the 6th equals 21. Now we take the 6th root of both sides. Solving here, we have x equals plus or minus. We took an even root of the 6th root of 21, and then we will use our calculator. Oh, by the way, these should have all been approximately equals. Okay, and let's do 6th root of 21. So we have 21 raised to the 1/6 power. And that is going to give us about 1.66 plus or minus. Number 8, it looks like we have the power already isolated. So all I have to do is simply take the cube root of both sides. So what happens here is this undoes the cube power. So we just have x plus 3 equals the cube root of negative 16. It's an odd root, so I don't need the plus or minus. I'm just going to subtract 3 from both sides. So I have x equals negative 3 plus the cube root of negative 16. And I'm just going to type that into the calculator. Okay, so we have negative 3 plus, and I'm going to put this in parentheses, negative 16 raised to the 1/3 power. And I get negative 5.52. All right, and I'm going to stop the video here because that's the end of section 6.1 review. And then the next video will be 6.2 review.